Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we got something a little different because we got a really exciting announcement for you. We're going to be talking about the new gimbal from Zhiyun, which is called the Cinepeer Weebill 3E. And I'm really excited to show you this gimbal here on my channel. So just a full disclosure, Zhiyun did send me this gimbal to test out, but they have not instructed me to say anything particular, and I am supposed to give my honest opinion, which of course is what I will do. So let's dive right in. If you know anything about Zhiyun gimbals, you might have heard of the Weebill 3S as well. So in this video I will go through the major differences between the Weebill 3S and this new Cinepeer Weebill 3E. Of course, I will talk about the different modes you can use on this gimbal. We'll look at the setup and the payload, and I will conclude at the end with my thoughts on this gimbal. Of course, along the way, I will provide you with some real-life footage of this gimbal in action. So what sets the Weebill 3E apart from its predecessor, the Weebill 3S? First off, the built-in microphone and the light on the 3S can no longer be found here on the 3E. Instead, we have a cleaner design with a single Type-C port for camera control, unlike the 3S, which had an additional port for follow focus and video transmission. The lens support and the backing base has also been removed, leaving just a single layer base plate, which works in both vertical mode and in horizontal mode. Which, of course, in my opinion, is really nice that you have the option to switch from horizontal to vertical, rather simple. On the upside, the Bluetooth shutter control still remains on this gimbal, making it easy to capture shots wirelessly. The battery life on the 3E is impressive 16 hours, accordingly to Zhiyun, which on the old 3S was only 11.5 hours. So this is a big upgrade, I think. And of course, let's not forget about the price point, because this is where you can see some of these things that have been left out. They of course also show up in the price, because the 3E starts at a really affordable price around 280 euros, whereas the 3S right now is set to be around 340 euros. So the Weebill 3 of course supports all of the popular gimbal modes like pan follow, lock mode, vortex mode, POV mode, you name it, it has them all, of course. And let's just go quickly through these modes, because at least to me this can sometimes be a bit confusing, so I will just try to make you understand what these modes are if you need to. PF mode, or pan follow mode, will enable the pan axis but disable the tilt and roll. In lock mode, it will disable both the tilt and the pan and remain in a steady position all the time. In follow mode, you on the other hand enable both the pan and the tilt, so it will literally just point the way that you point the gimbal, both upwards and to the sides and down, of course. And in POV mode, you enable the roll motor, so you can make the camera roll to the sides, just like going in this direction. There is also the Go mode, where you hold the trigger on the back, and this will give you a more responsive mode for your gimbal to use. This is usable if you are doing fast-paced shots. Then you can hold the button, and it should be more easy to hold up with these faster moves. And then there is the Vortex mode, which is this cool mode where you do the roll, and you can do these 360 spins, and yeah, these look really cool, but you also get really nauseous if you look at these too much. So the buttons on the gimbal are also highly customable. You can change most of the functions on these buttons and triggers into something that you prefer more. This could be like changing it to help you with the pan or with the roll. And you can also, if you connect it to your camera, change it to settings that you can change on your camera, like aperture or shutter speed, ISO, electronic zoom or electronic focus. So there are really great options for you to customize this if you need to. And as I said earlier, this can be done by connecting to Bluetooth. I haven't tested this out yet because the app has not been updated to work with this gimbal, but I guess this will be available when the gimbal comes out for the real release. But you can also connect it with cable, and then these functions works as well, if your camera is compatible, of course. In terms of payload, the Weebill is pretty beefy, I think. I've tested it out with my A7S III, which is a bigger mirrorless camera, and I've used it with different lenses, and I had no issues whatsoever using this setup with the A7S III. So apart from using the gimbal with my A7S III, I also did a couple of comparison shots with the 3 gimbals that I own. This is the Zhiyun Crane 2, which is an older gimbal, the Feyuitech Scorp Mini Mark 1, and then this Cinepeer Weebill 3E. And I used the good old Sony a6000 because this camera has no in-body stabilization. So I really wanted to see how these gimbals performed trying to stabilize the footage coming out of this old camera. Of course, this also means that the footage is just HD, but I hope that you can look away from this to see how the gimbals performs and not how clean the image is. I tried to use the 35mm, which has optical stabilization, and I did not take this off. And I also tried to use it with the Sony 85mm, which is a longer focal length, which should make it harder to stabilize. And bear in mind that the A6000 is not a optical camera to use with a gimbal. Because of its weight and proportions, I think that the weight is not really suitable for a gimbal. And I did also found that all 3 gimbals behave a bit funny in lock mode, which I think was because of the weight and how the weight was proportioned on the camera. Anyway, feel free to look at the footage and make your own adjustment in which you think looks better. The setup or process for balancing the gimbal is pretty straightforward if you have tried to balance gimbals before. And if you haven't, then I think it's going to be pretty easy when you have done it a couple of times. I will just run through how I set up the gimbal here. So basically what you want is it not to move when you are having it in these certain positions like this. Side position. And then you don't want it to roll to the sides. And you also don't want it to like be flexing to the side or rolling to the side when you're like tilted, which it isn't. So this is somewhat balanced. So basically if we just undo some of these, just to try to show what you should do. So now this is definitely not balanced at all. What I do is that I will lock the arms that I'm not balancing at the moment, which will be like this. And we will focus on the tilt. And it's just the basic of weights. You can see this is falling away from me and in front of it. So it has a lot of, it has too much weight on this side. So we will undo the locking mechanism here at the back. I will just simply move the camera towards me or towards the side it's not falling to find a balanced spot where it's not tilting anymore. And here I had it. Then I will lock the function and it's still holding up. And now you also have to do this way. It has to be able to point straight up without moving. And you can see it is moving. And then you have a locking mechanism over here, which you need to adjust. And again, it's the principles of weights. So it's falling towards me, which means I need to move on this axis towards or away from me, so it will not fall this way. It's just like a weight. So we'll just move it a little bit. Now we're just getting a bit too much. And I found that this one particularly can be a little hard to move, which is what it is. So let's lock this one. This is one of the not so flexible mechanisms, but because we adjusted this, we might need to adjust the tilt again, and we do. So let's balance this again. There we have it. It's awesome. Then we can unlock the next axis, which is here. This is the rotation here, and you can see this time we're falling to my right, which will probably be to the left of the camera. And what we need to do now is to change the position of the camera here. And there is also this locking mechanism in the back that we can just turn to the side, and then I can move the camera till it's still, which it is now, and then we will unlock this position, and it's still holding up just fine. And let's just see if everything is still as it should be. You can see now this has adjusted a bit, and this is just like sometimes how it works with gimbals, that you need to readjust sometimes, and you can see it is moving just a tiny bit, which shouldn't be a problem, I think. So what we need to adjust now is the last axis, so it can move to the sides. And this can be a bit funky, but basically what you want is when you take up the gimbal and you twist it a bit to the side, you don't want the pan to move at all, and it is. I think this one is a bit harder than the other ones, but let's undo it. Try to readjust. See if we can figure out which way it's supposed to go. And now it's not really moving, so it's supposedly balanced, and we can lock it. Alternatively, you can hold the gimbal on the side, and then the gimbal should not move to either side when you hold it like this. And if it doesn't, then you have to balance this last part of the gimbal. And we have a balanced gimbal, and it's ready to go out and shoot. You still have the option to buy the sling accessory for this gimbal. I was not provided with the sling accessory for my video here, but for what I've seen, I think this is a pretty good accessory to help you out. Of course, using the gimbal in sling mode, but also to rest your arms and take some of the payload off from your arms when you're using the gimbal for a longer time. And apparently this could take off some of the tearing down of your muscles or arms, like 40%, at least that is what the Zhiyun says. So to wrap it up, the Zhiyun Cinepeer 3E is a really good option for anyone who's looking for an affordable but a professional gimbal who delivers some really smooth footage. So in my opinion, gimbals have come a long way since they started to release gimbals like 10 years ago or something like this. And you will feel this when you have the Weebill in your hand as well. You do feel that this is a process of making gimbals and upgrading and making these algorithms and whatever they put in these gimbals to make them smooth better. The small form factor but the strong motors is a really nice complement, which makes it easy for you to pack the gimbal and take along with you, but still trust that it can handle the job that you're going to use it for. So as I've shown you here on the screen, I think the gimbal delivers really great results, as you can see. And one thing that I've noticed and I really like is that there is no drifting on this gimbal. I've seen this on other brands, and this can make your footage really useless, but I have seen no such thing on this gimbal. So it might lack some of the features that you found on the 3S, but I think that for this price point, it totally makes up for it, as well as you're getting this really great footage that is really hard to find on other gimbals in this price range. So if you're interested in picking up the Zhiyun Weebill 3E, you can check out the link in the description. This is of course an affiliate link, but I would really appreciate it if you use this link if you ever consider buying this, because this of course will also help me out. Anyway, I hope you like this kind of video on the channel, and thanks for watching. Take care guys, I will see you around. Boy.